Chapter 572. Before Elvis entered the cave, he already felt a wave of heat. Although the poison in his body made him weak, but if he was facing Gu Mengmeng, he still had the strength to do some things. Elvis smiled helplessly. He could only see her in this cowardly state of a prisoner. But the moment he smelled her fragrance, his mind was filled with scenes of them touching each other's ears and temples. After entering the cave, he realized that the scene was a little strange. Leah sat cross-legged beside Gu Mengmeng, looking at Snake with a sneaky expression. Snake's murderous aura made Lee's hair stand on end, but Leah acted as if he could not feel it. That furry tail of his swaying was clearly a very normal action, but when combined with the atmosphere, it felt like he was provoking Snake no matter how one looked at it. Gu Mingming's expression did not look too good. Lying on the beast's skin, she smiled when she saw Elvis. She called out weakly, "Hubby." Elvis's heart melted into a puddle of water. Not seeing her for the past few days, the suffocating and maniacal feeling of wanting to destroy everything was shattered by her calling him hubby. Taking 2 steps forward, he hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. "Are you feeling uncomfortable again?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Feeling a little wronged, she said coquettishly, "At the start, I only felt a little stomach ache, but now I don't even feel like saying anything." Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. "It's all right, don't say anything if you don't feel like it. I will accompany you." Gu Mengmeng nodded and nestled in Elvis's arms. Elvis turned back to look at Leah. "Where's the sanitary pad? Why didn't you pat it for her?" Leah shrugged. "Mengmeng doesn't allow me to lift her skirt." With that, Leah turned back to look at Snake with a grin. Mengmeng said she wouldn't let him lift it either. The veins on Snake's forehead twitched as he calculated the chances of him rushing over and swallowing this damn fox in one gulp before framing Elvis. Elvis chuckled. Even if he was such a useless hubby, he still felt blissful to be given such a unique reliance by her. Reaching under Gu Mingming's skirt, Elvis smiled in understanding. He turned back to look at Leah, then at Snake, asking, "Snakes, shouldn't there be snake sloughs?" Snake nodded his head in reply. Elvis continued, "I heard that the snake's skin is light and breathable, very suitable for females to make clothes." Snake nodded again. Actually, he had long wanted to use his snake's skin to make a set of clothes for Gu Mengmeng. But he knew that she was afraid of snakes, so he avoided showing his original form in front of her as much as possible. When he was angered by Wabi and could not help but transform into his original form to teach him a lesson, Snake did not even dare to look her in the eye, afraid that he would see repulsion and disgust in her eyes. So he had been restraining himself from using his snake skin to make clothes for Gu Mengmeng, even though he believed she would look very beautiful in it. Elvis nodded his head and said, "There are so many snakes in your Snake King Valley, can you find me 2 snake sloughs? About this wide will do." Snake looked at Elvis's measurements and frowned. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked out. Chapter 573. Seeing that Snake had walked far away, Gu Mengmeng grumbled softly, "How can I bring it up? Didn't I get poisoned after biting Snake the other time? When Snake brought me to the waterfall to have my stomach pumped, my underwear was washed away by the water. I wanted to look for you but Snake did not give me a chance at all. What should I do? I am also in despair. I can't possibly tell Snake, 'Hi, man, please give me 2 pieces of beast skin, I want to make underwear.'" Elvis felt deeply guilty and hugged Gu Mengmeng. "I'm sorry, Xiao Meng. It's all because I was too weak and could not protect you properly. I am clearly the first partner, but I could not protect your position in the family. I have let you suffer." Gu Mengmeng was stunned. "You can't be suspecting me of having an affair with Snake at such a time." Elvis remained silent for a moment. "I heard some snake beasts say that Snake announced to the public That you are his female. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. He was just lonely for too long and needed to grab onto something to escape his loneliness. In his eyes, I am probably no different from a pet dog. He might like me, but it is definitely not the kind of like you are talking about. Do you know? He was so exaggerated, he actually made me the saintess of the Snake King Valley. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances. As the Snake King Valley was relatively closed off, outsiders did not know much about their internal hierarchy. Gu Mengmeng continued, do you know what a saintess is? Elvis shook his head. Gu Mengmeng said, it sounds nice, she is called a saintess. It is actually a public level-up device. In the Snake King Valley, she chooses the stronger ones to mate with, allowing the males to level up, so as to raise the strength of the Snake King Valley. What's the difference between this and a prostitute for officials? Elvis and Lee's faces turned cold, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. They thought that although Snake was a little overbearing, he was at least sincere towards Gu Mengmeng. But he actually... Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, let me bring you away. Gu Mengmeng looked up, the poison in your body. Elvis smiled, gently caressing Gu Mengmeng's little face, even if I have to risk my life, I will not let you suffer such grievances. Gu Mengmeng wanted to explain that although Snake had made her a saintess, he did not allow anyone to bully her. She said this to prove that Snake did not have that kind of feelings for her. But, Elvis and Leah seemed to have misunderstood. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's chest and said, hubby, things are not what you think. Elvis frowned and said, don't be afraid, I'm here. With that, Elvis placed the sanitary pad that Leah had made between Gu Mengmeng's legs and told her to clamp it properly. Then, he lifted her up and walked towards the entrance of the cave step by step. The colorful snake blocked the entrance of the cave tightly, hissing and raising its upper body to warn Elvis and Leah. However, Elvis and Leah were not afraid at all. They walked forward step by step, and just as they were about to step into the pile of snakes, the colorful snake suddenly quietened down and retreated to the sides. Elvis looked up and stared straight at Snake, who was standing at the entrance of the cave. He did not retreat at all. Even if there was a huge disparity in strength, he would never let Xiao Meng suffer just because he was afraid of death. Snake was holding a snake skin in his hands. That was the first complete snake skin he shed. It was the most suitable size that Elvis had measured, and it was also the softest and cleanest. That was a precious snake skin that every snake could only shed once in its life, and it was to be given to its own female as a token of love. Chapter 574. Elvis bared his teeth with a murderous gaze. Leah appeared slightly calmer as he took a small step forward. Gu Mengmeng did not have the tacit understanding between Elvis and Leah, but she understood what they meant. Leah held Snake back, even if it was just for a second. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and ran. Snake did not seem to notice Elvis and Lee's obvious desire to fight. He just took a step forward and stood closer to Gu Mengmeng. With a cold expression, he said, say that you are not trying to escape secretly when I am not around. No matter what others say, as long as you explain, I will believe you. What did others say? Who? Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to look at the unbelievably docile colorful snakes surrounding Snake's feet and understood. She did not understand snake language, but it was obvious that these fellows had already repeated everything she had said to Elvis and the rest. From an objective point of view, Elvis was obviously carrying her and escaping. Under such circumstances, he still said that as long as she said no, he would believe her. Gu Mengmeng sighed helplessly. I don't want to be a saintess. Snake was taken aback. He thought that Gu Mengmeng would stiffen her neck and tell the truth or obediently go along with him. No matter what, he was prepared to deal with it. But, she didn't want to be the holy maiden. Snake looked at Gu Mengmeng without saying a word. Gu Meng Meng said, being a saintess is too miserable. If you force me to be a saintess, then even if Elvis and Leah are not around, I will still crawl away. Snake frowned. Crawling away. Did she really have to leave him? Gu Meng Meng turned her little face away and said, but if you can take back your order and not let me be that damned saintess, then I won't run anymore. A dim light flashed across Snake's eyes, as if the world in front of him suddenly had an exit. He looked at Gu Meng Meng with uncertainty and asked, if I don't let you become a saintess, you won't run away. Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, I originally came here to save my son. Now that I haven't even seen my son's shadow, why should I run? If I run away, wouldn't I have come here for nothing? Do you think it's easy for me to enter the Snake King Valley? Was it fun to fall from the sky? When I was in modern times, I didn't even ride a roller coaster. If I fall again, I might have a heart attack and die in midair. Snake's chest suddenly relaxed and his gaze became much gentler. She was clearly the one in the wrong and yet she still looked so righteous, but why did she look so pleasing to the eye? She didn't run away because she hated him, she just didn't want to be the Holy Virgin, that's all. Snake walked forward slowly and released his beast pressure at the same time as he passed by Elvis and Leah. He controlled the amount of beast pressure extremely well, pressuring Elvis and Leah to the ground in a second but not causing Gu Meng Meng to feel that the world was shaking and everything was double. As Elvis's body went limp, Snake caught hold of Gu Meng Meng steadily and held her in his arms. I just came back from outside and my body has warmed up. This sentence seemed to be an explanation to Leah. Carrying Gu Meng Meng to sit by the fire, he wanted to slow down the speed at which his body cooled down so that he could hug her a little longer. Looking at her fiery eyes, Snake was extremely gentle and said, I made you a saintess because I was afraid that you would be bullied in the Snake King Valley. After all, the saintess is the person with the highest status in the entire Snake King Valley other than me. But I didn't know that the so-called saintess was actually like this. Aside from the topic. Chapter 575. Actually, I have already announced to the entire Snake King Valley that from today onwards, the saintess of the Snake King Valley is a sacred and inviolable presence. No snake beast is allowed to offend her and she is no longer a level-up tool. But if you really don't like the title of saintess, you don't have to do it. With me around, no snake would dare to bully you. Snakel hugged Gu Meng Meng tightly while his body temperature was still warm. Then, he placed her back beside the fire reluctantly and stepped back a distance away. Next time, just tell me directly what you like or dislike. Running away is not a good way to express it. Snake hesitated for a moment before slowly taking out his snake skin from behind him. Do you want this? He no longer dared to force what he thought was good on her. It seemed like the experience passed down by his father was not suitable for Gu Meng Meng. Surprise and whatnot, it was indeed nonsense. Gu Meng Meng's eyes widened as she took the snake skin from Snake's hands in surprise. She exclaimed in admiration. This is a snake skin, it looks like a super high-grade cloth. It feels so good, so delicate and soft. The tips of Snake's ears turned slightly red. She said she liked his snake skin. Gu Meng Meng pursed her lips and smiled. Since you have already given me a present, I will not argue with you about the saintess. But can you not bully my hubby in the future? You are a beast king, how can you bully the weak? Snake stared coldly at Elvis and Leah, who were struggling to get up from the ground. He sneered. He has the nerve to be so weak. What do I have to be embarrassed about? Gu Meng Meng choked. She forgot. This was the beast world. The winner gets to enjoy all the benefits. Taking others by force was the right thing to do. Gu Meng Meng wrinkled her nose. Can't we play happily? TSK. Elvis returned to Gu Meng Meng's side and protected her in his arms. His warm palm caressed her stomach. I may not be strong enough, but I will not let anyone bully my female. Unless Xiao Meng is willing, no one can force her. Leah secretly panted for a long time at an angle that Gu Meng Meng could not see, before forcefully suppressing the fishy taste in his throat. Warming up his facial muscles, he changed into a wretched look and pounced into Gu Mingming's arms, pretending to cry, sob sob sob, Meng Meng, look at this snake, he always bullies me, so scared that my little heart is thumping non-stop. As he spoke, Leah pulled Gu Mingming's little hand into his arms and pressed it against his chest. Yeah, I want Meng Meng to rub it. Gu Meng Meng knew that although Leah had been stuck at the peak of 3rd level for a long time, not leveling up meant not leveling up. Snake's beast pressure had suppressed Elvis to such a state, and to Leah, the pain was more than doubled. So she didn't stop him. Instead, she followed his words and gently rubbed his chest with her little hand. Does this make you feel better? Leah was also taken aback. He just did not want Meng Meng to worry. But how could he bear to remove this disguise when she was so gentle? His furry big tail circled behind Gu Mingming's waist, supporting her body. Actually, it was him hugging her, but it looked like he was acting coquettishly in her arms. Elvis retreated and took over the snake skin from Gu Mingming's hands to start making her underwear. Chapter 576. Leah glanced sideways, his long and narrow eyes sweeping across Snake. He smiled faintly and said, I told you long ago to get along well with us, but you just wouldn't listen. Gu Meng Meng poked Lee's chest and said, you can't beat him in a fight and you still have a cheap mouth. Leah held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it gently. So what if I can't win? With you protecting me, he won't kill me. If he's injured, you'll feel sorry for him. I can't wait for him to hit me every day. Gu Meng Meng smiled and pinched Leah. I knew you were a masochist. Leah smiled flirtatiously. I only do this to you. With that, Leah placed his hand on Gu Mingming's abdomen and rubbed it slowly. Will it feel better like this? After all that, it seems like the blood is flowing even more fiercely than before. Gu Meng Meng glanced at Elvis, who was openly making panties, and suddenly stopped what he was doing. His blue eyes were filled with worry. Snake, who was standing a distance away, did not have any expression on his face, but his eyes were fixed on her. The vixen in her arms stared at her as if she wanted to write the 5,000 years of infatuation of China on her face. Suddenly, there was a feeling that the whole world had quietened down, waiting for her words. Gu Meng Meng smiled awkwardly and said, Sigh, women are always like this. I'm already used to it, it's nothing, it's nothing. Elvis remained silent and lowered his head to continue making panties. Snake no longer cared about what Elvis would do with his precious snake skin. It would be better if it was used on her. However, when he thought about how she had to bleed like this every month, he felt inexplicably frustrated. I heard that snake meat is very nutritious. Snake lowered his head and looked at the colorful snakes by his feet. He picked the fattest and most tender one and held it in his hand. Ask the fox to stew this snake to nourish you. Gu Meng Meng looked at Snake in shock. Do you know what that feels like? Then one day, your boyfriend says, baby, you lose a lot of blood every month. It's too bad for your body. In the future, I'll kill someone every month and stew it for you to nourish your body. The feeling of. Gu Meng Meng pointed at Snake with trembling hands and said, you are the Snake King, those are your people. Snake replied indifferently, that's right, so I can kill and stew whenever I want. Gu Meng Meng shook her head. No, you know I'm scared of snakes. Snake frowned and looked at the colorful snake. He thought for a while and said, the fox is very good at cooking. When he is done stewing it, you shouldn't be able to tell that it is a snake. Gu Meng Meng was really speechless. Snake's way of recognizing people was really unique. Although Leah could not defeat him, he did not expect his culinary skills to be so well known. Elvis was very familiar with making clothes. He only used a small portion of snake skin to make a small underwear suitable for Gu Mang Mang. He measured it slightly to make sure that there was no problem with the measurements, before finally saying, Xiao Meng doesn't like others to watch her wear her clothes. Both of you go out. Bring those snakes out as well. Snake raised his brows, clearly unconvinced. This was the Snake King Valley. Since when was it up to this weak wolf to give orders? However, Leah stood up seductively and walked past Snake. He smiled and said, This is family relations. The first partner's absolute authority is second only to Gu Mang Mang. Aside from the topic. Chapter 577. Snake was taken aback, so he could be considered as a member of Gu Mingming's family. Looking at Li's wretched face, Snake understood that he meant that if he treated himself as the Snake King, they would not be able to do anything to him, but if he wanted to join Gu Mingming's family, he would have to follow the family rules. Snake did not say a word, he just silently turned around and walked out of the cave. A group of colorful snakes followed behind him, none of them staying behind to keep watch. Leah turned back and winked at Gu Mang Mang, before following Snake out of the cave. Elvis pretended not to see the eye contact between Leah and Snake. He was not willing to accept that there was another powerful pervert in his family, one that he could never catch up to no matter what. If Snake was only a 5th-level peak orc, even if he was as strong as Wabi, he dared to say that he would be able to catch up to him one day. But he was a beast king. That was not a gap that could be crossed by hard work alone. It required opportunity and bloodline. And he definitely did not have that kind of bloodline. He would not be able to stop Snake. With the difference in their abilities, Snake could totally kill him and Leah, then replace them and forcefully keep Gu Mang Mang by his side. Not to mention that no one in the Snake King Valley dared to covet Gu Mang Mang, even in the entire beast world, no one would dare to harm a single hair on Gu Mingming's head. But he didn't do that, he was even willing to let go of his pride as a king and comply with the family rules. Ha! He was Snake, he was the rule of the Snake King Valley. To put it in an arrogant way, he was the rule of the beast world. This meant that Gu Mang Mang was already very important to that snake. However, Elvis did not have the courage to ask Gu Mang Mang again, do you want to take him in as your partner? He couldn't bring himself to ask this question. He was afraid to hear her answer. Therefore, he could only pretend to be deaf and dumb, pretending that he didn't notice anything. He helped Gu Mang Mang wear her snake skin panties properly, then covered her with the sanitary pad that Leah had prepared. After cleaning up the bloodstains on her body, he gently kissed her forehead. Gu Mang Mang wrapped her arms around his neck and asked, Hubby, is there something on your mind? Elvis was taken aback. He looked into her eyes and forced a smile. No, it's just that I haven't seen you for a long time and I miss you a lot. Gu Mang Mang looked at Elvis apologetically and said, I'm sorry hubby, I always promised that I would not be willful in the future but I still dragged you and Leah into such a dangerous situation. I really can't leave my son alone. As long as we successfully rescue him this time, I won't be willful in the future. I promise. Elvis kissed her little mouth lovingly and pressed down the 3 fingers she had raised up. Indulging your willfulness and cleaning up the mess is what a first partner should do. But the more Elvis said, the more guilty she felt. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it, saying, Snake did not forbid Leah and I from taking action, he even guided us to look for some hidden spots in the Snake King Valley. I guess he wants to help us find Hedda and the rest. Chapter 578. Elvis smiled faintly. To be honest, he could understand Snake's thoughts. He was in a hurry to find those 3 wolf pups, not because he had any special feelings towards them, but because Gu Meng Meng would not give up until he found those 3 wolf pups. And while Snake allowed Elvis and Leah to search for the children in the Snake King Valley, he could also be helping Ellie hide the children. Not for any other reason, but because once the children were found, Gu Mingming's next obsession would become leaving. He gave her a promise and a bottom line, that the 3 children controlled by Ellie were safe, but she just could not find them. So, she had to stay here and continue searching. What if one day, Gu Meng Meng suddenly lost interest in children and thought it through, she could just have another nest. By then, he and Leah would be the second wave of persistence to keep Gu Meng Meng here. So, no matter how much Snake disliked them, he only used poison to control them to prevent them from escaping, but did not really have the intention to kill them. Or else, so what if he was a 5th-level beast? In front of a perversely strong fellow like Snake, he was too weak to withstand a single blow. The commotion in the cave did not escape the 2 people outside. Just as Elvis was thinking about how to reply to Gu Meng Meng, Snake and Leah had already walked back. But with them, there was no colorful snake pack. Gu Meng Meng was rather surprised, asking, where are your people? Not following them anymore. Snake looked at Leah, then replied, they were afraid that I would cook them for you to eat, so they ran away. Gu Meng Meng would be a fool to believe him. Just from the look he gave Leah, Gu Meng Meng knew that Leah must have said something to him outside the cave to convince him to remove the surveillance system. But if he did not expose it, why did he have to embarrass him? So Gu Meng Meng pretended not to understand, and laughed, see, a tyrant will most likely be deserted by his own people. Saying, I will eat you for no reason, it must have scared away the people around him. Gu Meng Meng did not know that her unintentional joke had caused Snake to never say those words again in his life. Meng Meng. Leo wagged his tail and walked to Gu Meng Meng's side. I was scared by him today. You have to sleep with me tonight. Gu Meng Meng looked at Snake and saw that he had no intention of objecting. She thought to herself that Leah had some tricks up his sleeves. He managed to tame Elvis and coax Snake too. TSK, a 3rd-level beast managing a 5th-level beast and a beast king so well. Alright, then you can keep your son to sleep with me. Coincidentally, I'm craving warmth these few days. As Gu Meng Meng said, she opened her arms and waited for Leah to jump into them. But Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng up and said, it's too cold here, it's not suitable for you. Come back with us for a few days. Gu Meng Meng instinctively looked at Snake. Snake was obviously unwilling, but he did not stop her. He just turned his face to the other side and remained silent. Was this tacit approval? Gu Meng Meng grinned and gave Leah 2 thumbs up. Leo lifted his chin proudly and wagged his large tail. Alright, let's go first. Snake must not have rested well while Gu Meng Meng was staying here. Take advantage of these few days to recuperate. Chapter 579. Leah smiled and said, 10 words. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah with sparkling eyes and counted with her fingers, saying, if you don't want people to know, don't do it. Leo was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head while suppressing his laughter. He wanted to tell her directly, but wanted to know what other strange sentences she could come up with, so he coughed and said, guess again. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while and counted with her fingers for a long time. The sentences she could think of were either wrong or did not fit together. Finally, she shook her head and said, don't keep me in suspense, tell me quickly. Leah smiled and said, distance makes the heart grow fonder, more haste makes waste. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while, then said with a helpless face, you also think that I have something going on with Snake? Leah nodded honestly and said, isn't his reaction the best proof? Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, he has been lonely for too long and needs a friend. Leah smiled faintly and said, do you know how many snakes there are in the Snake King Valley? Every snake here obeys him and worships him like a god. He's never alone. Gu Meng Meng wanted to say, how could snakes be the same as humans? But on second thought, snakes were the same kind, right? But that great man was already over 1,000 years old. No matter how much he loved him, this difference was still. People say that from 17 to 18-year-old lads to 87-year-old old men, they all like 18-year-old girls. But no one had ever said that an old demon over 1,000 years old would also like 18-year-old girls. Gu Meng Meng could not accept this age difference from the bottom of her heart. She shook her head and said, maybe he is just a little interested in me because of his mother. Leah seemed to have seen through Gu Meng Meng's doubts and sneakily placed his arm on Elvis's shoulder and asked, you think he is old? Gu Meng Meng was taken aback and shifted her gaze away awkwardly. She said, anyway, it's just, nothing like that. Don't think too much. We are here to save our son. But Leah refused to let Gu Meng Meng off just like that. Instead, he asked as if he had discovered something interesting, then tell me, what is your psychological range? Gu Meng Meng thought for a while and said, 3 to 5 years, that's a more ideal age difference. Leah asked, you are 18 this year, right? Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, my birthday is in the first month, I should be 19 now. Leah nodded and asked, then guess, how old are Elvis and I this year? Elvis's face darkened. Even though he could not emit his beast pressure due to the poison, he still exuded a murderous aura. But Leah did not care and urged, look at him, his face has darkened. Guess him first, guess him first. When Leah said that, Gu Meng Meng suddenly realized this problem. She was King married and had 4 children, but she didn't even know how old her husband was. Let her calm down. A snake who looked like he was in his early 20s but was actually over 1,000 years old, Wabi, who looked like he was no older than 20, was actually more than 800 years old. Then, a 24 or 25-year-old Elvis. What the hell? Did she really marry a great-grandfather? Gu Meng Meng's voice trembled as she asked, hubby, how old are you, this year? Elvis looked at Leah coldly and said faintly, I forgot. Forgot. Chapter 580. Leah covered his mouth and chuckled. Meng Meng, guess how old am I? Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah and eventually shook her head slowly. Damn it, the heavens are so unfair. Compared to Snake and Wabi, those 2 old demons, Gu Meng Meng no longer dared to judge a person's age based on their appearance. Leah moved his shoulder forward and leaned his handsome face in front of Gu Meng Meng. His voice was soft and magnetic as he said slowly, do you mind dating a younger brother? Pfft. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah in horror. She was 19 this year and no matter how she thought about it, she felt that if there was a situation of an old cow eating young grass, she should be that young grass, right? Why did she suddenly feel like she was an old cow? Leah was a little disappointed. His tail drooped down and he asked obediently, you can't accept it. It's not that different. Gu Meng Meng patted Leah's shoulder and asked, Leah, tell me honestly, how old are you this year? Leah smiled and squinted his eyes. Call me Daddy Leah and I will tell you. Gu Meng Meng grabbed Leah's ear and pretended to twist it. If you still want your ear, tell me now. Leah pouted his lips with a wronged expression. 16, crack. Gu Meng Meng felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck her head. She slowly released her grip and looked at Leah with a complicated gaze. How long had she called a fox, who was 3 years younger than her, Daddy Leah? Leah was 16 this year, so wasn't he only 15 when he started dating her? Did this count? Gu Meng Meng's face fell. She felt that she was a wretched and shameless slut. But Leah covered his mouth and laughed. Isn't a young body much better than that old snake's? Gu Meng Meng looked up and wanted to shout scram. But when she met Li's long and narrow eyes and combined with his age, Gu Meng Meng could only swallow her anger and say gently, "Leah, be good and go play at the side." Leah burst out laughing. "Why do you sound like you're coaxing Heda and the rest when you say this? Don't tell me, you really want to acknowledge me as your son. Then can I also eat it?" Li's gaze shifted towards Gu Mengmeng's chest. Gu Mengmeng covered her chest with both hands and shouted, "Eat your sister. Little brat, you don't know what's good for you. You're taking advantage of me all day long." Leo laughed even harder. He tilted his head and said, "You don't want to be my mother beast, you want to be my sister. Incest, what a heavy taste. But if you like, I can cooperate." Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth. "Being your mother is also incest." Leah nodded with a look of realization. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, "So you like this kind of style?" Gu Mengmeng really wanted to bite off her own tongue. Elvis said with a cold face, "Don't mess with her anymore, she'll really get anxious later." Leah shrugged his shoulders and said, all right, don't be conflicted. I'm not 16. I'm 21. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways and asked, "Really?" Leah nodded. Gu Mengmeng then heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly looked up at Leah in a daze and asked, "So, who is 16? Leah held back his laughter. Elvis's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Gu Mengmeng turned her neck stiffly and looked at Elvis. "Tell me, you're not 16, please." Elvis cleared his throat and avoided Gu Mengmeng's gaze. "I'm not 16. F********. Chapter 581. Ever since she knew Elvis's age, Gu Mengmeng could not face him normally. She always looked at Elvis in a daze, but as long as Elvis dared to raise his head to look at her, she would immediately avoid him and become nervous. She was already used to letting Elvis take care of her, but now she was repulsed, such as changing sanitary pads. Elvis was vexed and he found Leah to be an eyesore. But he knew that Li's motive for doing so was to buy more time for Gu Mengmeng to stay in their cave. Because, if Gu Mengmeng behaved too intimately with them, that pair of eyes staring at them in the dark would not be able to control their jealousy and immediately snatch Gu Mengmeng away from them. And now, they did not have the ability to snatch it back. They could only interact once a month, so he could only endure Gu Mengmeng's awkwardness and control his eyes to not look at her. Then, he used every cell in his body to feel her gaze. A week passed by very quickly. When the colorful snakes appeared at the entrance of the cave, Leah and Elvis's eyes dimmed, but they still hung a smile on their faces. They said to Gu Mengmeng, "Snake has sent someone to fetch you. Follow these little snakes and they will bring you back to Snake's cave." Gu Mengmeng nodded her head. Gu Mengmeng knew that she felt awkward after knowing Elvis's age, so she did not have the chance to be intimate with Elvis during the rare time they spent together. He felt a little apologetic, but also a little reluctant. So she endured her awkwardness and walked to Elvis. She hugged him and said, "Elvis, can you send me over? I want to stay with you a little longer." Elvis's body stiffened for a moment before he dared to hug Gu Mengmeng back. "You're not allowed to not love me, no matter the reason." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and mumbled, "It's not that I don't love you, it's just that I feel like I've harmed a minor." Elvis bent down and kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips. He gave her a peck on her lips and said, "Orcs are considered adults when they can transform into human form. I have been an adult for 15 years. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in shock, blinking her eyes without saying a word. Becoming an adult at the age of 1. Who the hell are you kidding? Gu Mengmeng thought, what was she doing when she was 1 year old? I can't remember at all, but look at other people's 1-year-old children. They're still sitting in their strollers and biting on their pacifiers. Are you pretending to be an adult in front of me?" Elvis knocked Gu Mingming's little head with his hand and said, "Orcs, time scales and growth patterns are different from your side, don't compare them recklessly." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her head in dissatisfaction. "What's the difference? A little wimp will always be a little wimp." Elvis gritted his teeth and said, "Little brat can't make you pregnant but I can." Gu Mengmeng blushed and stomped her feet. She turned around with her back facing Elvis but did not walk away. The words "hurry and coax me, I'm angry" were clearly written on the back of her head. Leah also knew that Gu Mingming's awkwardness these few days had made Elvis feel uncomfortable, so he came out to smooth things over. Elvis is right, after an orc transforms, it means that he has reached adulthood. Moreover, the length of our lifespan should not be different from that of your world. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways and asked, "Yeah, all of you can live up to 1,000-years-old monster, but I can't." Chapter 582. Gu Mengmeng did not understand and tilted her head to wait for Leah to continue. Leah saw that Gu Mengmeng was no longer angry at Elvis's words and did not keep her in suspense. He continued, "Under normal circumstances, a 5th-level beast like Elvis can accompany you for the rest of your life as long as you don't eat him. As for a 3rd-level beast like me, even if I don't die in battle or get eaten by you, I can only live for about 30 years. I'm 21 this year and if I take good care of myself, Gu Mengmeng, I can still accompany you for 10 years. Gu Mengmeng was stunned and her expression turned solemn. 10 years, was Li's life already starting to count down? Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and asked timidly, "You are lying to me, right? How can there only be a 30-year beast? The people in my world look much weaker than you guys and it's not a problem for them to live to 70 or 80 years old." Leah smiled brightly, as if he did not care about death. He said calmly, "Males who are not accepted by females are equivalent to being eliminated weaklings. There's no need for them to exist. So normally, males who are over 10 years old and have not found a partner will voluntarily join the family of some females to become food reserves. To them, being able to let the females they like survive the harsh winter is the greatest value of their lives." Gu Mengmeng said, "But I have accepted you. Aren't you my beast pet?" Leah chuckled and could not hide the envy in his eyes. He looked at Gu Mingming's exposed collarbone and said, "An acceptance without a mark will not be acknowledged by the beast deity. But it's all right, even if it's only 10 years. I will still protect you well." Hiss hiss hiss, the little snake made a urging sound. Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something but Leah rubbed her head and said, "Don't pity me so easily. I don't think a 10-year life is as miserable as Snakel's long and unfocused life. Unless you plan to abandon me in these 10 years. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. She had mixed feelings and did not know what to say. Hiss hiss hiss, the colorful little snake raised its upper body and the urging became even more obvious. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and nodded. He gently turned Gu Mingming's shoulders and pushed her towards the entrance of the cave. "If you don't leave now, Snake will never let you come back to stay in the future. But, no buts, Elvis and I will continue to work hard for Hedda and the other two. I will see to the food and try to make it as exquisite as possible for you. If there's anything you want to eat, you can tell the little snakes in the cave. They'll tell me." When she turned back, Leah and Elvis were already standing side by side at the entrance of the cave, watching her leave. Gu Mengmeng hung her head dejectedly and did not say anything else. She just followed the colorful little snake towards Snake's cave. She was still afraid of snakes, so she didn't dare to get too close to them. The little snake seemed to know that she was afraid of them, so as long as she did not leave a certain range, they would not show any dangerous movements. Gu Mengmeng. A female voice sounded in the middle of the journey, blocking Gu Mingming's path. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng squinted her eyes. There was a female standing against the light at a high place. She could not see her face clearly, but her voice sounded familiar. Chapter 583. Who are you? Gu Mengmeng used one hand to block the sunlight and asked with squinted eyes. That female laughed coldly, then pulled the vine in her hand and said, "You can't recognize me, and can't recognize your own sons." Gu Mengmeng could tell that the 3 balls were her sons just by looking at the shadows against the light. Ellie. Gu Mengmeng was very surprised. She should have been able to recognize from the voice, but the female standing in front of her was clearly a complete female and did not have that iconic snake tail. This made her stunned for a moment. Gu Mengmeng wanted to run to Ellie's side, but the colorful little snakes blocked her way. Gu Mengmeng looked at her sons, hardened her heart, and stepped on the pile of snakes. Now, even if it was a landmine blocking her way, she would step on it without hesitation, much less snakes. Ellie's lips curved slightly, turned around and ran. Gu Mengmeng saw that Ellie had run away and was even more anxious. She chased after her without a care for anything else. Sons, her sons. If she let Ellie run away this time, she did not know when she would be able to see her again. Ellie did not run far, and seemed to be intentionally waiting for Gu Mengmeng to chase after her. Every time Gu Mengmeng almost could not catch up, she would slow down and wait for her. She did not run far, but just in a more winding direction. After chasing after her for a few turns, Gu Mengmeng could not tell north from south. Ellie stopped in her tracks and finally turned around to look at Gu Mengmeng. With a disdainful expression, she said with disdain, "You really dared to chase after me alone. You did not learn your lesson after being tricked. How did such a stupid female get chosen by the beast deity to become the messenger of the beast deity?" Gu Mengmeng placed both hands on her knees. She really wanted to say a few tough words to rebuke Ellie, but after coming to the beast world, she was almost in a state where she did not bring her legs out. When Elvis was around, Elvis would carry her. When Elvis was not around, Leah would carry her. When they reached the Snake King Valley, Elvis and Leah were not around, so Snake started to carry her. She seriously lacked training. If not for chasing after her sons, she would not have been able to persist till here. TSK TSK TSK, so useless. You only ran a few steps and you are already panting like this. I really don't know what the mighty Snake King sees in you. Is it just because of this face? Ellie did not seem to be afraid of Gu Mengmeng. She casually threw away the vines that bound the 3 little wolves and walked in front of Gu Mengmeng. She pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin and sneered, "You don't even have a single male beside you. I'd like to see how capable you are as the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng wanted to push Ellie's hand away, but realized that compared to this scheming bitch, the difference in physical strength between her and herself was too great. It was easy to beat Nina because she was an arrogant female. She had been pampered since birth and had almost no chance to train, let alone fight. That was why Gu Mengmeng, who had learned some basic fighting skills and persevered in working out, could win so easily. However, Ellie was different. She had lived in the Snake King Valley since young and was able to distinguish herself from the other females to become the sacred maiden. She did not just rely on her scheming ability to pretend to be a little white flower. Chapter 584. While Ellie was in pain, she quickly transformed her snake tail. The tip of the tail was covered in scales, wrapping around Gu Mengmeng tightly, as if she was strangling her prey. Her pupils became a straight line, her eyes filled with venom. Gu Mengmeng. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Jealousy made Ellie's face contort. She completely disregarded her own fingers, and even used more strength, directly breaking her own fingers in Gu Mengmeng's hands. Then, she strangled Gu Mengmeng's neck with her bleeding hand, saying harshly, "I coaxed him for over 100 years, but he did not even look at me once. Why did he surround you the moment you appeared? He should have killed you the moment you entered the Snake King Valley, and not let you replace me as the most respected female in the Snake King Valley. You deserve to die. Gu Meng Meng, you deserve to die. Gu Meng Meng wanted to struggle, but her entire body was wrapped tightly by Ellie. She could even clearly feel the pain from suffocation disappearing from her ankles upwards. Looks like she could not save it. Gu Meng Meng could only move one hand. She raised it in front of her, and poked at Ellie's eye. Ellie did not expect Gu Meng Meng to have such an evil move, and was caught off guard. Although she dodged instinctively, one of her eyes was still poked by Gu Meng Meng. When a person was in mortal danger, that kind of explosive power was shocking. One of Ellie's eyeballs was skewered on Gu Meng Meng's finger like octopus. Ellie let go of Gu Meng Meng in pain, covering her eye and rolling on the ground. Gu Meng Meng lost her center of gravity, and fell onto the ground, panting heavily like a fish that had been stranded. The eyeball in her hand made Gu Meng Meng feel disgusted, but she could not think so much at this moment. She shook her hand with all her might, and flung the eyeball off her hand. She tried to stand up, and realized that her leg was in a strange and peculiar position, as though it was in a spiral state. As expected, it was broken. Gu Meng Meng was glad that after the pain reached an extreme, she was now numb to pain. Even if she had to crawl to her son's side, or at least untie the vines on her son's body, so that they could escape. As long as her son was fine, she would not hesitate even if she had to sacrifice her life, let alone crippling her legs. Blood followed the path Gu Meng Meng took, drawing a bloody meandering line on the ground. Gu Meng Meng grabbed onto the grass on the ground and moved her body forward with all her might. Her goal was very clear, her son. She wanted to save her son. One step. Just one more step. Gu Meng Meng's fingers were about to reach Heda, and she saw Heda and his brothers opening their mouths, as if they were desperately trying to say something to her. Gu Meng Meng could only hear the sharp chirping in her ears. It was a pity that she could not hear her son's words. Don't be afraid. Mommy is here to save you. Don't be afraid, Mummy is here. As Gu Meng Meng spoke, she smiled at the three pairs of terrified and helpless eyes. She used all her strength to comfort her sons. She had finally touched Heda. A smile blossomed on Gu Meng Meng's face, but before she could smile, her body was dragged backwards and she was dragged far away. Heda. Gu Meng Meng stretched out her hand. Her only wish now was to untie the vines on the children's bodies. Chapter 585. Gu Meng Meng raised her arm to block, but her tiny arm was no stronger than a straw under Ellie's shocking biting strength. Was she going to die? Was she going to die? That's right, how could a human fight against a demon? Wasn't it all because of that monkey that Tripiake could obtain the scriptures alive? But her monkey was not by her side. Life started spinning in front of Gu Meng Meng's eyes. It was just a moment, but she saw herself transmigrating, being picked up by Elvis, dating Leah, breaking up, then becoming partners with Elvis and giving birth to children. In the end, it's your mother who is too useless, she couldn't even save you once. The only regret is that I never heard you call out once, Mummy. The clear voice beside her shocked Gu Meng Meng. With her eyes widened, Gu Meng Meng saw three half-orc young men trying their best to hold Ellie back. One used his fangs to bite onto Ellie's snake tail, dragging her backwards. One rode on her back, locking her neck and trying his best to twist it backwards, while the last one was biting onto Ellie's throat, not retreating at all even though blood was sprayed all over his face. Just now, who called out to her? Gu Meng Meng's eyes reddened and she started crying. The pain from her leg being crushed did not even make her cry, but now because of the word Mummy, her tears flowed. No more regrets, she had no more regrets. Her sons broke free from the vines and could escape. Before she died, she also heard the word mummy that she yearned for even in her dreams. Gu Mengmeng struggled to sit up to help her sons fight against Ellie, but she saw her suddenly transform into her beast form, instantly becoming thicker and more solid. Her snake scales were hard, the 3 half-orcs who had just evolved could not bite through her scales. The 3 sons were flung away, their mouths full of blood. Ellie's eyes seemed to be red. She opened her mouth wide and charged towards Hedda and his brothers, looking as if she wanted to swallow them whole. No! Gu Mengmeng screamed her lungs out. She wanted to rush over to her son's side to protect them, but her leg bones were crushed into pieces. She could not even move a single step. Ellie's body suddenly froze, and she was in a trance for a moment. Gu Mengmeng thought that her screams had worked, so she hurriedly continued, "Ellie, don't you hate me? Am I not the one who deserves to die? Come at me. I'm right here, come over." Ellie shook her body and exposed her head. He looked extremely terrifying as he looked at Gu Mengmeng with a malevolent expression, his gaze vicious and twisted. He wanted to save you. He actually used his identity as the Snake King to save you. I am his clansman. I am his saintess. I am the one who has guarded him for over 100 years. Can't you go against your innate nature? Why not? He. I'm going to resist for him to see. I want him to remember me, even if he hates me. With that, Ellie charged towards Gu Mengmeng without a care in the world. Gu Mengmeng could clearly see that with every inch Ellie moved forward, a few scales would fall off her body. By the time she reached Gu Mengmeng, she had already turned into a skinless, bloody worm. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ah! Ellie bit onto Gu Mengmeng's thigh, then twisted her body in a twisted position, almost twisting Gu Mengmeng's leg off. Gu Mengmeng screamed even though she could not feel any pain. Half a second before Gu Mengmeng's leg was torn off, a hand grabbed onto the back of Ellie's head fiercely by 3 inches. Ellie's lower jaw was forced to loosen, and Gu Mengmeng's leg was saved. Aside from the topic, was this considered a literary stupidity? But I didn't do it on purpose. Who saved Gu Mengmeng? Chapter 586. The person who had come was Snake. Gu Mengmeng had thought that Elvis would be the first to rush over. After all, they had the mating mark to guide them. She was injured to this extent, so Elvis must have already known. But why wasn't he the first to come? Could she not see him, for the last time? Gu Mengmeng's consciousness started to drift away. The heaviness of her eyelids and the coldness of her body became an irresistible whirlpool that pulled her in. Snake looked coldly at the bloodied worm in front of him. Without a word of nonsense, he squeezed his fingers and strangled her to death. Turning around, Snake carried Gu Mengmeng. The sagging curve of her legs made him frown. He had imagined more than once that Gu Mengmeng was a snake like him, how perfect the scene would be. But now, she looked so ugly with her limp lower body. It was no wonder that she hated snakes. Such an unbearable scene should be hated by others. Snake carried Gu Mengmeng back to the entrance of his cave. Elvis and Leah were lying there with wounds all over their bodies. Snake stopped in his tracks and looked at Elvis. He threw out 2 words calmly, so weak. Elvis clenched his teeth and did not say a word. He had no right to retort. A pair of bloodshot eyes landed on Gu Mengmeng, who was in Snake's arms. He felt as if something in his chest was being sliced off piece by piece and then rubbed repeatedly with salt. A string of blood droplets dripped down from the side of Elvis's mouth. He had clenched his teeth so hard that it was bleeding. Snake glanced at Leah and said, "Turn my snake skin into clothes for her to wear." With that, Snake did not explain further and entered the cave. The colorful snakes quickly coiled together and sealed the entire cave entrance. And Gu Meng Meng, who was in the cave, was already in a state of deep unconsciousness. In the white world, Gu Meng Meng seemed to be floating without gravity. She was surrounded by fog, but it did not make her feel pressured. Instead, it made her feel very comfortable and relaxed. "Child, you are very impressive." A kind voice rang beside Gu Mengmeng's ears. Who are you?" Gu Mengmeng felt someone caressing her hair. The action was gentle and loving. She wanted to know who was talking to her, but her throat could not make any sound and her eyelids were so heavy that she could not open them. "I am the beast deity." That person seemed to have heard the voice in Gu Mengmeng's heart and directly gave the answer. "Beast deity." Gu Mengmeng was confused. "Beast god, yes, I am the beast god. My child, the road ahead of you may be rough, but please keep a kind heart." Gu Mengmeng did not understand and asked in her heart, "What do you mean?" The beast deity chuckled. "I'm sorry to have disrupted your original life. You must have been very helpless when you first arrived in the beast world. But now, you have Elvis and Leah who love you, as well as Saint Nazir tribesmen who are loyal to you. In the future, you will have more and more followers by your side. Your words, actions, and way of thinking will influence the beast world for the next 1,000 years. So, don't lose your benevolent heart, understand?" Gu Mengmeng's mind was filled with question marks, but she could not form a proper question. She just felt muddle-headed. The beast deity continued, "Child, do not be sad, do not be sad. You have bestowed upon him the greatest release." Chapter 587. Ugh! Gu Mengmeng moaned, feeling a splitting headache. "Xiao Meng." A warm embrace immediately hugged Gu Mengmeng. Then, Gu Mengmeng heard the deafening heartbeat gradually calming down, as well as a sigh of relief after surviving a calamity. Gu Mengmeng opened her eyes, gradually adapting to the light in front of her. She raised her hand, feeling a little lost. Dream realm, so that was what it meant. "Elvis, let go of me." Gu Mengmeng's voice was so calm that it was frightening. Elvis's body stiffened, but he still slowly released his hand. She should be angry. As her first partner, he did not fulfill his responsibility to protect her. Gu Mengmeng turned around and sat up, looking at her 3 sons who were sleeping in a ball in the corner. They looked exhausted, they must be exhausted. Gu Mengmeng took up the beast skin that was covering her body and gently covered her 3 sons. Then, she walked out without saying a word. Elvis followed behind her quietly, the silence spreading in the air. "Do you know? How does it feel to fall in love with yourself?" Gu Mengmeng's gaze landed on the flat big rock at the entrance of the cave. There was a set of clothes made from snake skin drying there. Elvis did not say a word, he just quietly stared at the dark green snake behind Gu Mengmeng's neck, baring its fangs. Gu Mengmeng sat on the rock, staring at the set of clothes made from snake skin in a daze. The person who would reach out his hand and call her Tu Meng had now turned into a set of clothes. "I thought I was just an interesting existence in his long life. But I never thought that I was the only color in his 1,000-year life." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, smiling bitterly. "He was really decisive, he actually used such a method to let me truly feel his care and persistence towards me." Gu Mengmeng did not turn back, her eyes were still fixed on the set of snake skin. Her voice was calm, without any great sorrow, but it made one's heart ache. "Do you know what the last sentence he said to me was?" Elvis stood behind Gu Mengmeng, he did not even have the courage to reply. If not for him being too weak, he said that taking liberties with a married woman would really incur the wrath of the heavens. He would cut open his chest and take out his gallbladder. Gu Mengmeng did not cry. Instead, she smiled. "Then, he told me thank you," he said, "thank you for letting me live." He died for me, and now he's thanking me for letting him live. What kind of twisted logic is this? But now, I can't even blame him. Gu Meng Meng clutched her chest tightly and said, "What should I do?" I actually felt his love for me so deeply, but we had only been together for a mere month. In this 1 month, I never thought that his feelings towards me were love. I am Gu Meng Meng, I feel that I should feel guilty and cry. But Snake had passed all of his memories to me. In his memories, this last month was far more blissful than that long 1,000 years. His senses told me that as long as I lived, he was happy. So I wanted to laugh again. Now, I can't even tell if I am Gu Meng Meng or Snake. Am I a human or a snake? Should I cry or laugh? Elvis went forward and gently hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms, saying deeply, "I'm sorry, I couldn't protect you. I was too weak." Digression. Chapter 588. Gu Meng Meng wanted to lift her arms to hug Elvis back, but she felt her wrists were so heavy that she could not lift them. Sighing, Gu Meng Meng said, "Elvis, let go of me. I want to wear the clothes Snake left for me." Elvis slowly let go, feeling a pain as if a layer of skin had been peeled off from his chest. Gu Meng Meng had always been protective of her privacy and only changed her clothes in the cave. Most of the time, even he had to avoid her. But this time, she actually stood in an empty space and took off the beast skin she was originally wearing. Then, she carefully put on the clothes made from snake skin. Gu Meng Meng tilted her head and asked, "Does it look good?" Elvis nodded and said, "Xiao Meng looks good no matter what you wear." Gu Meng Meng wanted to smile but realized that she could not. She sat back on the rock and squinted her eyes at the sun. "Where's Leah? I haven't seen him since I woke up." Elvis said, he has some debts to settle." Gu Meng Meng asked, "Cole?" Elvis remained silent and did not say a word. Gu Meng Meng said, "Even if Cole broke his tail, he is still a 5th-level beast. Just Leah alone cannot defeat him." With that, Gu Meng Meng looked into the distance and said, "Go find Leah for me. Tell him that I am waiting for him and ask him to come back." Elvis followed Gu Meng Meng's gaze and saw a rustle in the bushes. If one did not look carefully, they would think that it was just the rustling of grass in the wind. But a 5th-level beast's eyes were extremely good. He saw traces of colorful snakes in the bushes. "You?" Elvis was confused. Gu Meng Meng lowered her head and did not look at Elvis's eyes. She just gently touched the back of her neck and said, "Sorry, I promised that I would only leave your mark on my body." "But," Elvis said, "Xiao Meng, Snake is the strongest among the kings. I did not have any objections to you mating with him." Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "Snake did not mate with me. This mark is a protection mark, not a mating mark." Elvis frowned and asked, "Protection mark?" Gu Meng Meng nodded her head almost imperceptibly and said, "I was killed by Ellie and my bones were all broken into pieces. Even if I was saved, I would be half paralyzed and probably won't be able to stand up again. Moreover, Ellie's final bite was a self-inflicted poison. Even Snake would not be able to remove it in a short period of time. So, he used the simplest and most violent way to solve this problem." Elvis was silent. He did not know the whole story. He only knew that after Snake carried Gu Meng Meng back that day, the colorful snake blocked the entrance of the cave. When the snakes dispersed, there was only an unconscious Gu Meng Meng and a huge snake skin left in the cave. Gu Meng Meng calmed herself down and continued, "He cut open his own chest and took out his own snake gallbladder to detoxify and prolong my life. Then, he poured 1,000 years of his cultivation into my body. Apart from the snake's slough, everything else was concentrated on this mark. Oh, even the snake skin is on me now." Gu Meng Meng said, do you know why he branded the mark on the back of my neck? Elvis shook his head. With Snake's arrogance, he should have branded the mark on Gu Mingming's chest and occupied that position. Chapter 589. Gu Mengmeng replied, because he wants to guard my back to prevent anyone from sneaking up on me. He said, he wants to be the pair of eyes that are open behind my back. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Elvis and asked, isn't it funny? He's already dead and he's still talking about guarding. It's just a mark, what can he guard? Elvis was silent for a moment before he stretched out his right hand and transformed it into a wolf claw, before suddenly attacking the back of Gu Mingming's head. Ah! With a scream, Elvis fell to the ground. His wolf claw was covered in black venom and his skin started to corrode instantly. Gu Mengmeng turned around and frowned. She flipped over and jumped down, grabbing Elvis's hand and placing it beside her mouth. Then, she gently licked the venom on it. Gu Mingming's little tongue easily cleaned up the venom and at the same time, formed a transparent layer on Elvis's hand. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis quietly and did not say a word. But Elvis smiled and said, look, although it's just a mark, he can still guard your back. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, don't do such silly things to punish yourself. You didn't let me down and you've already done enough. Elvis looked down and said sadly, but I didn't manage to guard you. Gu Mengmeng said, it's not your fault. In the end, it's the result of my willfulness. Elvis sat up straight and hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms again and said, I swear, I will become stronger, stronger and never let you get hurt again. Gu Mengmeng smiled bitterly and said, now. I have inherited everything from Snake, including his battle abilities and memories. In the entire beast world, I'm afraid no one can hurt me anymore. Elvis was stunned and said, you mean? Gu Mengmeng nodded and touched the mark on the back of her neck again and said, Snake has already merged with me as one. He gave everything to me and he gave it, very thoroughly. Elvis smiled bitterly and said, this should be considered a good thing. You don't have to worry about anyone plotting against you anymore. You also don't need me anymore. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis back gently and pursed her lips, saying, I've aged 1,000 years in one night and I'm still not used to many things. But there's one thing I know, you're my family and I'll need you no matter what. Elvis did not say a word and just hugged Gu Mengmeng back gently. Neither of them said anything. A violent sound came from afar, and it was rapidly approaching. Gu Mengmeng stood up and turned to face him. A huge python appeared in front of Gu Mengmeng, its head that was as big as a train's engine stuck at the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. If it was in the past, she would have screamed, but now, she just looked up calmly and said, didn't I tell you before, I hate snakes, I hate shit, I hate snakes that look like shit. With that, Gu Mengmeng slapped the snake's head and the head, which was as big as a train, was slammed onto the ground with a loud bang, embedding about 1/2 meter into the ground. Wabi transformed back into his human form and stood up. He rubbed his chin and pointed at Gu Mingming's nose. Snake, I want to challenge you. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and sneered, you can't beat me. Wabi's eyes were red. He seemed to be suppressing his emotions as he roared, I don't care, I just want to challenge you. I want to defeat you and replace you as the master of the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, all right, you're the master of the Snake King Valley now. Aside from the topic, I've unlocked Gu Mingming's golden finger that all of you wanted. She now had all of Snake's powers, the powers of the only beast king in the beast world. She didn't need to rely on mating to protect herself. She could stare to death with just a stare, but, I want to know, are you happy after unlocking this heaven-defying golden finger that all of you have been dreaming of? Chapter 590. Wabi roared, I don't need your charity. I want to snatch it myself. With that, Wabi-Ai attacked Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng just turned her body slightly and stepped on Wabi-Ai's back, causing him to lie flat on the ground. She looked down at Wabi-Ai from above and said coldly, "You are so annoying." Wabi-Ai's eyes turned red, but not because of anger. He rolled and transformed into a giant python to attack Gu Meng Meng again. Elvis wanted to join the battle but was stopped by Gu Meng Meng with a hand gesture. Gu Meng Meng tilted her head and looked at Elvis, saying, "This is what Snake owes him. I should repay him. Don't interfere." With that, Wabi-Ai's poisonous fangs were right in front of Gu Meng Meng. That gaping mouth had already enveloped Gu Meng Meng. One bite and Gu Meng Meng would be swallowed into his stomach. Then, the next second, the giant python landed on the ground with a thud, accompanied by a cloud of dust. The entire world was shaking and everything became a blur. Wabi-Ai was like a lifeless noodle being squashed flat on the ground. Elvis was not spared either as he was pressed flat on the ground, unable to move. Gu Meng Meng took a deep breath and retracted her beast pressure. She walked in front of Wabi-Ai and kicked him, saying, "So weak." Wabi-Ai slowly transformed back into human form but did not stand up. He just sat cross-legged on the ground and lowered his head, murmuring, "Thank you." Gu Meng Meng kept her ice-cold expression and also sat cross-legged beside Wabi-Ai, saying, "I have already found my son. Tomorrow, I will leave." Although Snake has never cared about this Snake King Valley, but this place was formed because of him after all. I don't wish for the Snake King Valley to collapse just like that. You can defend this place, right? Wabi-Ai glanced sideways and met Gu Meng Meng's eyes. He immediately lowered his head and stared at his own shadow. This was the only way he could continue imagining that the person he was fighting with just now and the person sitting beside him talking to him was Snake. "Since I did not win you, this Snake King Valley is still yours. If you want to defend it, you can defend it yourself. If you don't. Gu Meng Meng patted Wabi-Ai's shoulder. "Snake actually cares a lot about you." Wabi-Ai stiffened his neck and turned to the other side, not looking at Gu Meng Meng. "Mind my ass. He only thinks about his own release and doesn't think about what I should do. I've lived for 800 years, and I've fought with him for 800 years. He was my only goal and role model. Now that he's gone, where should I go with my life?" Gu Meng Meng sighed softly. She also knew that Wabi-Ai did not really want the Snake King Valley. He was just like Snake, too lonely. The duel became a strange way for them to care and communicate with each other. Even though Snake was the one who one-sidedly crushed Wabi-Ai every time, Snake had never killed him. Moreover, in the long 1,000 years without Gu Meng Meng, if there was anything that Snake could look forward to, it would probably be Wabi-Ai's frequent challenges. Gu Meng Meng remained silent for a moment before saying, "Sorry." Wabi-Ai harumphed but did not reply. Gu Meng Meng felt that some things had to be clarified, so she said, "I know, you and Ellie, but Snake killed Ellie because of me. I'm very happy that you appeared today. At least the people he cares about did not all die because of me." Chapter 591. Perhaps she was affected by Snake's memories, but Gu Meng Meng found it hard to stir up too many emotions. As for Ellie, Gu Meng Meng did not wish to talk much about it. She just continued asking Wabi-Ai, "Are you really not willing to stay in the Snake King Valley?" Wabi-Ai's expression dimmed. "Staying here to remind myself that I will never be able to surpass him." Gu Meng Meng looked at Wabi-Ai quietly and sighed. "Then what plans do you have for the future?" Wabi-Ai replied, "Aren't you going back to St. Nazaire?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. Wabi-Ai said, "I will go back with you." Gu Meng Meng raised her brows and looked at Wabi-Ai. "You know I hate." Wabi-Ai jumped to his feet and said, "Didn't you inherit everything from Snake?" "Everything from him includes my challenge." Let me tell you, unless I defeat Snake, you will have to answer whenever I challenge you. Gu Meng Meng stared at Wabi. She knew that without Snake, he would be the most upset person. So, Gu Meng Meng snorted in disdain. You overestimate yourself. Wabi stared at Gu Meng Meng in a daze. He did not speak for a long time. He just quietly sat beside Gu Meng Meng, frowning slightly. I know you hate snakes that look like shit. I will try my best not to reveal my true form in front of you. As long as you occasionally speak to me in snake's tone like you did just now, and fight me when I really cannot bear it. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. She stood up and dusted her hands. Then, she slapped Wabi's back, sending him flying. She raised her head. So annoying. Turning around, Gu Meng Meng did not look at Wabi's expression. She only heard him shouting behind her. Just you wait. One day, I will defeat you and throw you out of the Snake King Valley. Gu Meng Meng knew that Wabi was crying. The three little wolves had long been woken up by the commotion outside. They wanted to come out to see Gu Meng Meng, but were stopped by Elvis. When Gu Meng Meng returned to the cave, she found it hard to express her feelings. Her son, who was not even a year old, was now standing beside Elvis and looking at her. He still had the body of a child and looked to be about 4 to 5 years old. Snake's inherited memories told her that the children's physical abilities were stimulated by the sight of her in mortal danger, forcing them to upgrade. This method of leveling up by spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm was harmful to the body itself. Gu Meng Meng caressed her son's faces and tried to confirm, you are Heda. The one who looked the most refined among the three nodded and stepped forward, calling out, Mother Beast. Gu Meng Meng forced a smile and said, I saw it, you were the first to transform and rush over with your 2 younger brothers. But next time, I hope you can run away with your brother. Because if not for Snake's timely arrival, the 4 of us would have died there. In such a situation where there's a great disparity in strength between us and the enemy, it's wiser to protect as many as you can, understand? Heda shook his head and said, we are males, we have to protect the females in our family. If I can't even save my own mother, I might as well just die. Chapter 592. Kanwa's eyes were the most similar to Elvis's, the same deep blue. Gu Meng Meng touched her son's little face and said, Kanwa is such a brave child. But do you know? The blood of a snake is poisonous. You would have been poisoned yourself after biting Ellie's throat like that. If Snake had not given his blood to the 3 little ones while saving Gu Meng Meng would have to face the pain of losing her children the moment she woke up. Jiaoyu walked forward and hugged Gu Meng Meng's thigh. He looked up at his mother and said, Mother Beast, don't worry. I will think of ways to protect all of you in the future. I won't let my brothers get hurt again and I won't let Mother Beast worry again. I want to be the smartest Jiaoyu of Mother Beast and live up to the name Mother Beast gave me. Gu Meng Meng kissed Jiaoyu's little face and gently stroked his furry ears. Jiaoyu is so sensible. Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng up and stared coldly at the 3 little wolf cubs. He had to say that these little ones really knew how to make Gu Meng Meng like them. He could not comfort Gu Meng Meng no matter how hard he tried, but she became much better with just a few words from these 3. The wolf cubs who could talk were much more threatening than before. But, for the first time, he was glad that these 3 little wolf cubs were around. If they had not suddenly transformed and held Ellie back for a while, Snake might not have been able to save Gu Meng Meng in time. Your Mother Beast is tired and needs to rest. You guys go outside. Why? Kanwa took a step forward and glared at Elvis angrily. We want to stay by Mother's side to protect her. Elvis gritted his teeth. I will protect my own female. Kanwa did not back down. Is that so? Then where were you when she was in danger? Elvis's chest tightened. He clenched his fists tightly and could not say a word. Gu Meng Meng patted Kanwa's little head. Kanwa, you can't talk to father like that. Although Kanwa was indignant, he did not want to make mother angry. So he lowered his head. All right, mother, I understand. Gu Meng Meng squatted down and looked at her three sons at eye level. She said, your father is very brave. He and Leah risked their lives to clear Cole's trap so that Snake could successfully rush to the scene to save us. Although they did not appear, it did not mean that he did not do anything. So, you can't think of father like that, understand? Kanwa raised his head and looked at Gu Meng Meng, then at Elvis. I'll give my mother face and not argue with you. Elvis frowned. Why was this brat getting more and more annoying the more he looked at him? Hedda pulled Kanwa back. Kanwa. Said Kanwa. Let's wait outside for Daddy Leah to return. Gu raised her. Gu asked. Gu. Gu said. Father, Gu. And Gu. Gu. Gu Meng Meng found it funny, they did not call Elvis's daddy, but called Leah daddy. Gu Meng Meng found it funny. They did not call Elvis father, but called Leah father. Hedda said. Although he did not mate with mother, he is recognized by you and Father Beast. So we call him Father Leah. Gu Meng Meng nodded. Father Leah sounded different when it came from her and the children's mouths. Chapter 593. Gu Meng Meng turned around and looked at Elvis. She did not say anything and just pulled his hand. Elvis pulled Gu Meng Meng into his arms and kissed her hair. You have just recovered from your injuries, you still need to rest. Gu Meng Meng shook her head. My recovery ability is very good now, I don't feel anything strange anymore. Also, I don't want to sleep. Whenever I close my eyes now, Snake's memories will appear. Do you know? I can even see the previous messenger of the beast deity. Elvis lowered his head and gently rubbed Gu Meng Meng's temples. Not only did you inherit Snake's memories, you also inherited all the memories he inherited from his family. Gu Meng Meng nodded helplessly and said, yeah, but many of the images are very blurry. Maybe it was too long ago so I can't remember them clearly. But Snake's memories and his father's memories are very clear in my mind. Then. I feel like I was a male who loved the previous messenger of the beast deity, and a male who fell in love with himself after being lonely for 1,000 years, isn't it ridiculous? I'm even starting to suspect who exactly am I. Elvis's eyes were filled with heartache. He hugged and kissed Gu Meng Meng. You are my Xiao Meng, my queen. Gu Meng Meng's fingers gently touched Elvis's chest. The scar there had not completely faded. The healing ability of a 5th-level beast and a beast king was still very different. Does it still hurt? Gu Meng Meng asked. Elvis held Gu Meng Meng's hand that was rubbing the scar on his chest and shifted it to the left. Yes. Gu Meng Meng felt the heartbeat vibrating from her fingertips. She looked up and met Elvis's deep blue eyes. Pursing her lips, she said, I don't want to lie to you and say that I'm fine. After experiencing that nightmare, I woke up 1,000 years older. I am very confused and uneasy. I don't know how to face the fact that Snake sacrificed his life for me. But I promise, I will slowly get better. Be it for you, for our sons, for Leah and the tribe, or for Snake. Elvis held Gu Meng Meng's hand and nodded. I know you will get better. You will definitely get better. Gu Meng Meng did not reply Elvis. She just looked up at the entrance of the cave. Now, her hearing was extremely good. Leah is back, Gu Meng Meng said. Elvis asked, you have something to tell him? Gu Meng Meng nodded and glanced sideways at Elvis, saying, I know I promised to only have you as my partner in this lifetime, but I now understand how persistent a male can be when he is in love. Snake had only known me for less than a month, but Leah had already been by my side for half a year. If you blame me. Elvis chuckled and did not let her continue. He just kissed her hair lightly and said, I will never blame you. No matter what you do, I will support you. Whatever you want, I will find it for you. Gu Meng Meng nodded, deliberating whether she should say sorry or thank you. After hesitating for a long while, Gu Meng Meng said, Hubby, I love you. Elvis curled his lips and said, I know. Besides, I love you too. With that, Elvis let go of Gu Meng Meng and left the cave after taking a deep look at her. Chapter 594. Leo was taken aback. Elvis had already brought the 3 children and walked far away. But Leo could not lift his feet to step into the cave. Congratulate me. Gu Meng Meng almost died and he did not manage to catch coal. Elvis brought his child away and congratulated him before he left. Gu Meng Meng was waiting for him in the cave. Congratulations for what? It was self-evident. But he did not dare to take that step forward. Afraid, how could he not be afraid? What if he was wrong again? What if it was an empty joy again? What if? Gu Meng Meng said that she did not want him again. The wisest man in the beast world, how ironic was this title now? What could he plan? He could not even protect the female he loved. Leah stood at the entrance of the cave like a statue. He stared at the cave, as if there was a huge force of attraction that was drawing his gaze. But his legs were rooted to the ground and he could not move. Leah. Gu Meng Meng came out to welcome him. She stood 3 steps away from Leah. Unknowingly, Leah had an urge to escape. Let's mate. Gu Meng Meng took a step forward and reached out a hand to Leah. I don't want the 10 years of life you have left. I want you to accompany me for a long time. Leah did not say anything. He just took a step forward and grabbed Gu Meng Meng's wrist. He pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. He wanted to rub her into his bones and blood. Gu Meng Meng could clearly hear that Lee's breathing was trembling. Every cell in his body was boiling. But his throat was tightly locked and he could not say a word. Gu Meng Meng hugged Leah back and gently placed her face on Lee's chest. She said, I did not understand in the past how decisive a male can be when he falls in love with a female. If I had known earlier, I would not have believed the nonsense about you and Nina. In the end, I did not trust you enough. But because of this reason, I tortured you for so long. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Leah shook his head and kissed Gu Meng Meng's lips. She was not wrong. How could she be wrong? She was his Meng Meng. It was his fault. It was his fault for thinking that everything was under control. It was his fault for putting her on the scale. It was his fault for not protecting her properly and letting go of her hand for so many inexplicable things. Torture. What kind of torture was that? She had never been able to harden her heart to him, so that he would not collapse in despair. All the pain was his own fault. But she had been kind enough to hold his hand again and again in the abyss of despair. What did she do wrong? Why should he apologize? Leah carried Gu Meng Meng horizontally and strode into the cave. Leah placed Gu Meng Meng down gently on a beast skin beside the fire. He flipped over and ran his fingers across Gu Meng Meng's little face, tidying the stray hair on her face. Meng Meng, is it really you? Gu Meng Meng held Lee's hand and placed it on her cheek. Her eyes reflected the light from the fire, bringing with it some warmth. In this world, who else dares to snatch my man? Leah smiled to hide the glint in his eyes. It's useless even if you snatch, you can't. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Li's neck. She pursed her lips and continued, I inherited all of Snake's abilities and am now a little poisonous person. If I mate with you, it might cost you your life, so I can only use another method to mate. Do you mind? Leah kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply. He said in a hoarse voice, I don't mind being a beast pet for a lifetime. What else would I mind? Digression, there are 2 versions here. Babies who want to see Li's digression can go to the VIP group to find the shared file. Babies who only accept 1v1 can read the main text. Verification group, 4927799273. After entering the group, please contact the corresponding administrator to verify your fan value and enter the VIP group to see the other version. Chapter 595. Gu Mengmeng turned around and gently pushed Leah up. The 2 of them sat side by side. Gu Mingming's fingers were slightly cold. She pointed at Li's brows and stared into his eyes. She confirmed once again. Mating is the combination of 2 people's energies. I will extract a drop of your blood from your brows and send it to my heart. We can still complete the mating contract. If you want to regret, it's still not too late. Leah smiled gently and dotingly. He held on to Gu Mingming's wrist with one hand and hooked her chin with the other. Get me, possess me, then, allow me to give you all my loyalty. Gu Mengmeng, do you know how long I have been waiting for this day? Gu Mengmeng returned a smile. She gathered the breath of the Beast King on her fingertips and pointed at Li's brows. A drop of blood hovered in front of Gu Mingming's fingertips. Gu Mengmeng slowly sent the drop of blood into her heart and into her body. Gu Mengmeng bit the tip of her tongue and took the initiative to cover Li's lips. A bloody kiss announced the completion of the mating process. Li's head was dizzy and his gaze started to drift off. Gu Mengmeng stood up and tidied up her messy clothes. She then gently caressed Li's sleeping face. She chuckled. I still dominated you in the end. But I don't want to be conflicted anymore. Who knows which will come first, tomorrow or an accident? I don't want to regret it anymore. Gu Mengmeng instructed the little snake to call Elvis and the children back. Elvis did not go far. He was guarding the entrance of the cave for Gu Mengmeng. Seeing the little snake, he brought the 3 little ones back. But the moment they entered the cave, Elvis was stunned. What situation was this? Gu Mengmeng was sitting there perfectly fine. But Leo was unconscious. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. Elvis frowned and sighed. I told him not to listen so much. Look, he really can't listen anymore. Cough. Gu Mengmeng choked. She smiled awkwardly and did not reply. Bring Leah along. Let's set off. Qishuan's poison cannot be delayed any longer. Elvis picked Leah up with one hand and hugged Gu Mengmeng with the other. Then let's return to solder first. Gu Mengmeng nodded and did not say anything else. Once Elvis exited the cave, a large group of snakes followed behind him. At first, it was the colorful snakes, but the further they walked out of the valley, the more snakes followed, and the thicker they were. By the time they reached the entrance of the valley, even Wabi-Ai had caught up. Gu Mengmeng looked back and frowned. She was no longer afraid of snakes, but if she brought all of them out, the world would be in chaos. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis, signaling him to put her down. He took 2 steps back and looked at the snake beasts behind him. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had stopped, the snake beasts that could transform into human form did the same, while those that could not yet stood upright and looked at Gu Mengmeng attentively. Chapter 596. Saintis. One of the snake beasts took a step forward and said, What should we do after you leave? Gu Mengmeng scanned the crowd of snake beasts and realized that other than Wabi, there were almost no other orcs above the 3rd level. Was it because Snake killed Ellie and caused the mating contract to backfire? There was a gap in the number of powerful warriors in the Snake King Valley. No wonder Ellie dared to lay his hands on her. She gambled that Snake would not sacrifice the lives of more than half of the powerful warriors in the Snake King Valley for a dead Gu Mengmeng. Unfortunately, she lost. In Snake's eyes, nothing was more important than Gu Mengmeng. Thinking of Snake, Gu Mengmeng frowned and her heart ached faintly. After I escort the Saintess to Saint Nazir, I will come back to guard the Snake King Valley for him. Wabi took a step forward and transformed into a half-orc. His snake body stood erect and was at least 3 stories tall. He looked down at the crowd of snake beasts and asked, "Any other questions?" Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways and smiled faintly. She knew that the him Wabi was referring to was not herself but Snake. The snake beasts all lowered their bodies to show their obedience. Wabi then transformed into a human again and stood behind Gu Mengmeng. "Let's go." Gu Mengmeng nodded and led Elvis, Leah, Wabi and the 3 buns out of the Snake King Valley. The moment they came out, they saw Ian standing guard at the entrance. He was already sick but now he looked even more haggard. Gu Mengmeng walked forward and bit her finger. Then, she squeezed out a drop of blood and placed it on Ian's lips. "It has been hard on you during this period." Ian was taken aback. He wanted to wipe off the blood on his lips but realized that the blood had already seeped into his mouth. Moreover, it took effect quickly and all the blood in his body seemed to have been ignited. That boiling feeling was painful but also a form of release. The feeling of being unable to use any strength for a month was gradually disappearing. She neutralized the poison in him. Gu Mengmeng knew that Ian had many doubts but she did not want to explain. She just said, "Let's go to Solder first. I will tell you the rest slowly." Ian didn't say a word and just followed behind Gu Mengmeng silently. He was wary and hostile towards Wabi. Wabi could not be bothered with him. A mere 3rd-level bird, if Snake had not instructed him to keep it alive, it would have long become a dish in his stomach. He didn't want to compete with a meat dish. Gu Mengmeng's current physique was much better than before, so the group traveled much faster than before. That night, Leo woke up. Rubbing his head, the first thing he did when he opened his eyes was to look for Gu Mengmeng. Turning his head, he realized that she was sitting beside the fire in a daze. Lee's gaze subconsciously softened. He propped himself up and sat beside Gu Mengmeng, wrapping his large tail around Gu Mengmeng's waist and calling out softly, "Mengmeng." Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Leah. After regaining her senses, she smiled and said, "You're awake." Lee's hand gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's little face. His gaze landed on her left ear and he smiled in an extremely gentle manner. There was a snow-white fox lying on Gu Mengmeng's ear. Its head was on the earlobe and its face was facing upwards. It looked as if it was running towards Gu Mengmeng's ear along the earlobe. Its large furry tail occupied the outer part of Gu Mengmeng's ear. It looked like an exquisite earring and was very lifelike. So, that wasn't a dream. That's great. Aside from the topic, you want to ask why Lee's mating mark was not on her heart, right? This is my final preference for my son. If Lee's mark was on her heart, what would Elvis do? Also, don't worry, Gu Mengmeng had enough self-protection abilities now. She didn't need to rely on mating to protect herself. So the males around her were only Elvis and Leah. There wouldn't be another one. As for Snake, who had left a mark on her neck, he was the 0 that I had previously revealed in the group. 5 partners. Chapter 597. 3 days later, Gu Mengmeng and the rest returned to Solder. Sandy and Colin carried Qi Xian to the stone house Gu Mengmeng was staying in and handed him over to her. Gu Mengmeng used her own blood to feed Qi Xian, but he still did not wake up. Gu Mengmeng frowned, not understanding. According to Snake's memories, her blood should have the effect of detoxifying poison. The poison that Ellie used on the little wolves should be the same. Since it could save Hede and his brothers, there was no reason why it could not save Qi Xian. Dylan knew that Gu Mengmeng had returned and rushed over immediately. After discussing with Leah, he came to see Gu Mengmeng. He was a little hesitant, but still said, apart from Ellie's snake poison, there might be something else on little Master Qishuan's body. Gu Mengmeng asked, "What do you mean?" Dylan said, "Cole is never a person who puts all his eggs in one basket. He is used to having double insurance for everything. If he dared to send little Master Qi Xian back to you, it means that he is confident that he will not wake up. And a suspicious person like him would not place all his hopes on others." Gu Mengmeng frowned, hugging Qi Xian as she fell into deep thought. Gu Mengmeng was now very clear on how Cole had presented the treasure to Snake. Snake was not a fool, he knew that Cole was only using him as an insurance mechanism, but he still sent Ellie to assist Cole. Firstly, he was only interested in the messenger of the beast deity at that time to find out some information about the other world from her, and did not care much about it. Secondly, in Snake's eyes, Cole's methods were really too lackluster. No matter what tricks Cole had up his sleeves, he would always have a way to make him send Gu Mengmeng to the Snake King Valley obediently. But judging from Cole's actions, he was indeed not someone who only had one set of plans for doing things. So, to save Qi Xian, I have to find Cole. Gu Mengmeng thought about everything in the past, her brows furrowed. Hede and his brothers surrounded the unconscious Qi Xian, sniffing him and licking him. Hede nudged Qi Xian, saying, "Xian, Xian. Don't sleep, hurry up and play with us. Look, Lu, Wu, and I have all evolved into half-beasts. You should also quickly get up. Once you wake up, you can evolve." Qi Xian did not move and continued to lie there quietly. Jiaoyu sighed. He was clearly a young child, but he had an air of maturity about him. He lightly patted Hede's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, I believe that mother will definitely have a way." Kanwu ran down from the bed to Gu Mengmeng's side. He looked up at her and said, "Mummy, how can we wake Qi Xian up? You are the great messenger of the beast deity, you must know, right?" Gu Mengmeng squatted down and gently caressed her son's little face. Looking at his clear and expectant eyes, Gu Mengmeng still shook her head. "Mummy also doesn't know how to wake Qi Xian up, but Mummy will definitely do my best. Believe in Mummy, all right?" Kanwu nodded heavily and said, "I believe in Mother." Gu Mengmeng smiled. When her gaze met Qishuan's, she frowned again. Chapter 598. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before her eyes suddenly lit up. She hugged Kanwu and kissed him. "You are indeed my son. So smart." Kanwu was bewildered by the kiss and blushed for a while. She pretended to be calm and said, Of course." With that, Kanwu ran back to Hede and the rest and surrounded Qi Xian, trying to wake him up. Gu Mengmeng asked Leah to send Dylan off, before walking into another room and lying on the bed. Elvis accompanied her over. Seeing that she was lying down, he asked, "Do you want to sleep for a while? I'll wake you up when Leia is done with dinner." Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "When I was unconscious, I dreamed of the beast deity." Elvis frowned and said, "Is there a deviation in your behavior?" "Which part?" Elvis's nervousness stemmed from the analysis Leah had given him. The beast deity had pointed out and corrected the messengers' deviations in their actions in the dream realm. If the messengers did not make any changes or make amends to reverse their mistakes, they might very well anger the beast deity and be punished. He was extremely afraid of that punishment, because no matter what it was, he could not let Gu Mengmeng get hurt. So, if there was any deviation in Gu Mengmeng's actions, even if she asked him to dig Snake up and die in his place, he would definitely do it. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's arm lightly, signaling him not to be nervous. Then, she said calmly, "He is not here to warn me, but to greet me. He also told me to maintain a kind heart." Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng doubtfully and asked, "Are you sure? Did you miss anything?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I won't. You also know that after I inherited Snake's ability, my memory became especially good." Elvis thought about it and felt slightly more at ease. He held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and asked, "So you want to look for the beast deity in your dreams again and ask for advice on how to save Qi-Xian?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Elvis was a little dejected. He sighed and said, "I used to think that I could do anything, but why do I always feel helpless now?" Dream. How good would it be if I could follow you into the dream? Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "Hubby, you have already done very well." Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis's confidence had been destroyed by Snake until there was nothing left. Especially after Ellie's suicide attack, Elvis had been shrouded in a sense of helplessness. Unfortunately, at this moment, there was a fox on her ear. Gu Mengmeng felt apologetic and guilty towards Elvis, but she did not know how to comfort him. "Forget it, I'll deal with my son first." Gu Mengmeng allowed Elvis to hold her hand. She then slowly closed her eyes and said, "Hubby, I feel very relieved that you can stay by my side and accompany me." Elvis slowly bent down and planted a kiss on Gu Mengmeng's forehead. "I will always be by your side." Gu Mengmeng nodded. The sunlight shone through the window gently onto Gu Mengmeng's face. It was warm and comfortable. Elvis's warmth could be felt from her palm, full of support. Gu Mengmeng gradually fell asleep in a very peaceful environment. Her faith supported her to find that white fog no matter what. Gu Mengmeng's brows were tightly furrowed as she fell asleep. Chapter 599. Gradually, Gu Mengmeng's vision was filled with a blurry and hazy whiteness. Gu Mengmeng tried shouting, "Beast deity! Beast deity!" There was no reply, not even an echo. It was dead silent and lifeless. Gu Mengmeng groped her way deeper into the fog, but other than the white fog, she could not see anything else. "Beast deity! Beast deity!" Gu Mengmeng continued shouting, but still received no reply. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Did she walk into the wrong door, or was the beast deity not at home? Just as she was feeling suspicious, a cold hug enveloped Gu Mengmeng from behind. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and instinctively released her beast pressure, but the person behind her was not overwhelmed by it. Instead, he chuckled and said, Not bad. You know how to use the weapon I left for you to protect yourself." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and her whole body froze, unable to move. Tu Meng. With that, a hand reached out from behind Gu Mengmeng, palm facing up, in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng raised her trembling hand and clenched it into a fist, slowly placing her little hand on that palm. Was it magical? Just by hearing the voice and looking at that hand, Gu Mengmeng could actually recognize who was hugging her. "Snake. Is that you?" Gu Mengmeng did not turn back, only asking softly. The large hand closed gently, firmly holding Gu Mengmeng's little hand in his palm. Then, with a light pull, Gu Mengmeng spun half around, standing face to face with the person behind her. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng saw that familiar devil-like face. His dark green eyes were shining with a cold light, but Gu Mengmeng did not feel afraid anymore. That natural aura and arrogant stance only made Gu Mengmeng feel at ease. She took the initiative to jump into Snake's arms, and the tears that Gu Mengmeng had been holding in since she woke up finally fell. Snake was taken aback. He held Gu Mingming's little chin and asked, "You are already ugly, but you look even uglier when you cry." "I will cry, I will be ugly. If you don't like it, don't look." Gu Mengmeng was a little willful, deliberately crying even louder and uglier. Snake's gaze was gentle as he caressed Gu Mingming's little face and said, "I like you no matter how ugly you are. You know, you're the only color in my eyes." Hearing Snake's words, Gu Mengmeng stopped crying. She sniffled and lowered her head to avoid Snake's gaze. She said softly, "Liking me is probably the most unfortunate thing in your life. This is the first time in 1,000 years that I've met with misfortune. In the end, I lost my life. You shouldn't have saved me in the first place. Just let me fall from the sky and die." Snake pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "Meeting you is not something unlucky. The beast deity pitied me for being shackled for 1,000 years and sent you to save me. It's just that. I can't bear to force 1,000 years of loneliness on you." Gu Mengmeng looked up and said, "Then why don't you discuss with the beast deity and come back? I'll return everything to you. Will you come back?" Snake chuckled and said, "Yes, I can't go back. But the beast deity promised me that as compensation, he would let me find you in another world." Gu Mengmeng sniffled and asked, "What do you mean?" Snake cupped Gu Mingming's little face and bent down to accommodate her height. He looked straight into her eyes and answered, "I will go to your world and find you before you transmigrate. Then I'll enjoy you all to myself." Digression: this can be considered a preview. At the end of this article, I will release a digression saying that Snake was reborn into the era that Gu Mengmeng was in. Then, as a modern person, he wooed the pre-transmigrated Gu Mengmeng and made her stay in the modern world. From a timeline perspective, this matter is not valid. Because if Snake had stopped Gu Mengmeng from transmigrating, then he would not have gotten to know Gu Mengmeng and would not have been reborn. But, yeah, let's just treat it as the concept of a parallel universe. Snake is a character that makes my heart ache. I will tell everyone without hesitation that in the entire article, Snake is the one who makes my heart ache the most. Compared to Snake, what does torturing Leah previously count as? Chapter 600. Gu Mingming's eyes were watery, as if she didn't quite understand what Snake meant. Snake smiled as he pinched Gu Mingming's little face. "So, I am freed from this shackle. To me, death means that my happiness has just begun. Tu Meng, I left everything to you, not to let you live on for me, but to let you live on properly. Don't use your messy memories to mess up your life, just live on your own terms. Laugh when you're happy, cry when you're sad, fight back if someone bullies you, kill if someone plots against you. This is the reason why I left everything to you. My Tu Meng is still most suited to be carefree." Gu Mingming's nose felt sour as she punched Snake's chest. "Are you praising me? Why does it sound so awkward?" Snake held on to Gu Mingming's little fist, placing it in his hand carefully, as if he was admiring a precious piece of art. As if he wanted to remember every line on Gu Mingming's palm, he looked at it carefully and seriously, then said, "I don't have much time, so you have to remember my words well." Gu Mengmeng nodded, pursed her lips and didn't say a word, quietly listening to Snake's confession. "After I injected my abilities into your body, I shared your memories. I know, from beginning to end, you treat me as a friend, not as a male. Although it's a pity, it's too late to change anything. In that world, after I found you, I will never let such a thing happen again." Gu Mengmeng looked up at Snake with her sparkling eyes. "Snake, I like you." Snake was stunned for a moment, then he smiled. "My Tu Meng is so soft-hearted and gentle. I know it's fake, but I still thank you for saying that." Gu Mengmeng shook her head, wanting to explain. But Snake didn't give her the chance. His body had already started to become transparent. Snake seized the time to explain, you are Gu Meng Meng, not Snake. Be it the Snake King Valley or Wabi, it's not your responsibility. You have no need or obligation to act as my substitute in front of them. Live your own life, use my powers, and protect yourself well. Tu Meng. I like you, Tu Meng. Thank you, Tu Meng. Goodbye, Tu Meng. Snake completely disappeared before Gu Mengmeng's eyes. No matter how hard Gu Mengmeng tried to grab at him, she could not find a single trace of him. Her chest tightened as she squatted on the ground, wailing loudly. Don't you like Snake? Did she only see him as a friend? That's right, before Snake shared a memory with her, she really only saw Snake as a friend. But later on, when she obtained Snake's memories, she clearly knew how much Snake liked her and how much he treasured her. All the good things he did for her, every scene of the two of them together was like a movie that was destined to separate replaying in her mind. The sweeter it was then, the sadder the ending was. Gu Mengmeng knelt on the ground and shouted, Snake, I don't dislike you. I just didn't have time to tell you. I like you. I like you. I like you. Chapter 601. I'm here. Where is he going to find me? Gu Mengmeng roared. That person was still very gentle and said with a loving voice, he will go to your original world to find you before you transmigrated. He will be happy, so don't cry, alright? Gu Mengmeng wiped her tears and finally saw the person in front of her clearly. He did not have a white beard or hair and looked to be in his 30s. But his eyes were as tolerant and calm as the ocean. It was a kind of wisdom and an indescribable love. You are the beast deity? Gu Mengmeng asked. The man nodded and said, yes, it's my first time meeting you, my daughter. Gu Mengmeng blushed and burped. She sniffled and asked, you know I was spouting nonsense in the beast world. The man chuckled and said, how is it nonsense? If you are willing to be my daughter, then you are my daughter. I don't mind. Gu Mengmeng sniffled and tilted her head. I mind. The man did not insist and said, I know you came to find me because of Qishuan's matter. But I can't help you. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before she immediately knelt down and hugged the man's arm. Father, you are my biological father. You have to save your grandson. The man did not know whether to laugh or cry at Gu Mengmeng's reaction. He gently rubbed her little head and said, it's not that I don't want to save him, but the people of the beast world have their ways. If I forcefully interfere, it will only make things worse. All I can do is to guide him. Gu Mengmeng looked up and said, can you speak like a human? I don't understand. The beast deity was silent for a moment before he sat cross-legged beside Gu Mengmeng and said, you inherited Snake's memories, so you should know about the previous messenger of the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, yeah, I know some parts. It probably started after she found Snake's father. I don't know what happened before that. The beast deity still looked like he wanted to smile but did not. He strangely exuded the light of a deity who loved the world. Gu Mengmeng sat beside him and felt like she was about to convert to Buddha. The previous messenger of the beast deity is called Wang Xiaoxin. In your world, she is the honorary advisor of the Book of Changes Association. The reason I chose her back then was because she had a deep understanding of metaphysics. And her mission is to bring faith to the beast world. Gu Mengmeng digested the beast deity's words. Actually, before this living beast deity appeared in front of her, Gu Mengmeng was an absolute atheist. She never believed in gods or Buddhas. Otherwise, why didn't the gods and Buddhas show up to help her when she was suffering all those years ago? She thought that she was a kind person and had never done anything evil, but she was going to be abandoned by her parents and live a life of hunger and cold. But now, There was a living god sitting in front of her, surrounded by a halo, sitting cross-legged in front of her, chatting and explaining to her in a down-to-earth manner. This made Gu Mengmeng start to waver. Could she still say that there was no god in this world? Then who the F***ck was sitting in front of him? But even though she was shaken, the so-called metaphysics was just a scam in her heart. An honorary advisor of the Book of Changes Association. He's just a film that says what people say and what ghosts say. Chapter 602. F*******. Gu Mengmeng looked at the beast deity with a sullen expression. Are you mocking me for being a bad student? The beast deity shook his head gently. Of course not. I'm telling you why I can't save Qixuan. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. For her son, she would not mind even if he said she was born an idiot, much less mocking her for being bad at her studies. The beast deity continued smiling. When she came to the beast world, she was competing with a few top psychologists in hypnosis. Gu Mengmeng looked at the beast deity in surprise. Can hypnosis be competed? Find a few people and see who can rush the others first. The beast deity shook his head. It was a few hypnotist masters. They entered the same room at the same time and hypnotized each other. They were all professionals. It was not an easy task for anyone to hypnotize anyone else. A few authoritative figures who refused to submit to each other used this method to determine the winner. It was a little like a sword fight on Mount Hua, right? Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at the beast deity. She chuckled. Deities also watch television dramas. Are you also a Jin Yong fan? The beast deity rubbed his nose. I want to choose a suitable person from that world to guide the people of the beast world. How can I do that without doing some research on that world? Gu Mengmeng snorted. Your method of research is watching television dramas. The beast deity cleared his throat. He was clearly a little embarrassed. But he was not angry. He continued. I used that hypnosis to bring Wang Xiaoxin to the beast world. But she thought that everything in the beast world was just the effects of hypnosis. She fought with all her might, trying to wake up from the hypnosis. She tried to find a way to free herself. In her eyes, she believed that everyone was a hallucination in the hypnosis. Gu Mengmeng frowned. She recalled Wang Xiaoxin's resolute and merciless attitude towards everyone in her memory. So it was not because she was cruel by nature, but because she believed that everything was an illusion. All the things she was unwilling to do, but still did, in the hope that she would not be able to withstand the torture and force herself to wake up. The beast deity continued. Afterwards, she became more and more crazy. If she was allowed to continue, she would destroy the entire beast world. So, I entered her dream and told her the way to free herself from this hypnosis. As long as she can do it, I will let her go. Gu Mingming's understanding of hypnosis was limited to the scenes in television dramas, such as forcing someone with amnesia to recall some past they did not want to face, changing other people's lives, and hypnotizing that damn fatty to dance in The Return of the Condor Heroes. The beast deity said, she believed my words and thought that this was the key to breaking the hypnosis. So she did everything I asked of her. It's just that, he used the most ruthless and cruel method. Gu Mengmeng looked up and said, for example, having a son with the bloodline of a beast king with a cold-blooded snake beast, then using him as a key to transmigrate back to the present world. The beast deity nodded and said, in the end, I still overestimated the term maternal love. It turns out that TV dramas are all lies. Not all mothers are willing to change themselves for their children. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.